Hello, everybody. We are back, and I wasn't joking. We have saved some of the best content for last. No, we loved everybody today. It's all been really good, but this is going to wrap it all up by combining some of the concepts we've been talking about, including the buzzword that's been the word of the day. And you can guess, if anyone puts it in the chat, then there's an extra piece of cake for you. And also a demo. And we have the pleasure of talking to Cisco. Rohit is joining us. A lot of people don't know how significant Cisco has been, particularly in the last year, to the Istio community. So we want to make sure we highlight all those things. And you know the rules. If you have questions, just put them in the chat, and I will make sure that they get covered here in this session. So Rohit, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa, so much for inviting me. And truly excited to see Istio 1.0 come alive. And congratulations to the entire Istio community. Cisco's been involved since last year, and we've contributed features into the project, and we're excited to be part of the community.
Yeah, no, and we love that Cisco's involved, because when y'all get involved, you get involved in big ways.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you provide a super important part of the puzzle, with Cisco's expertise and some of that networking stuff that's really needed. So can you talk a little bit about what Cisco contributed?
Absolutely. So I think we started primarily because Istio touched upon two very key pieces that we actually lead in the industry: networking and security. And as microservices trends and containers and Kubernetes have become kind of the default way in which new applications are getting deployed, we wanted to make sure that we provide the networking and security at the layer that application developers want. And so I think as the multi-cloud world is becoming reality, we contributed into Istio a feature called multi-cluster. Essentially what that feature did was enable you to register services across multiple environments with a single Istio control plane. And that's what's going to be the demo that I'm going to be showing. I actually have a few slides. Do you want me to walk through the slides?
Yeah, why don't you explain it? Multi-cluster is that, you guessed it, people, you guessed it. It was the buzzword, and we've had a little, drinking game. We've had to do a shot of iced tea every time someone said multi-cluster. I see Spencer's back there getting ready for the real 1.0 party. If I hear that thing pop and hit someone in the eye before we're done, no fair getting a head start. So yes, multi-cluster, please, if you can walk us through conceptually, because we drop a lot of buzzwords around here, but it sometimes means different things to different people.
Exactly. So I think this is probably a picture that everybody has seen throughout the day. This is your control plane, data plane architecture of Istio as is. We've got three components: Pilot, Mixer, and Citadel, that essentially are talking to envoys or the sidecars running alongside every service within a Kubernetes environment, outside of Kubernetes. But what happens is, in a multi-cluster environment, is that your services could be running in another Kubernetes cluster that's not within the same environment. It could be on a public cloud, it could be on your on-premises, it could be on an IBM container platform, or a Cisco container platform, or Google Cloud, or Amazon EKS service, or Microsoft, any of these Kubernetes environments, right? So with multi-cluster, how do you essentially have a single control plane of Istio? In this case, you can see Pilot, Mixer, and Citadel are just one piece that are running on one particular environment, and have all of your services registered with that single control plane. And so once that happens, now you can do all the functionality that you were doing with your services for a single environment across multiple environments now. So that's what it gives the Pilot the capability to register these services, to apply the load balancing rules, the intelligent routing, the security across these services across multiple environments. So you know what? I'm actually more excited about giving the demo and showing this slide. So I want to switch gears into the demo part. And this is the book info architecture that's on Istio web page. You got products, reviews, details, and ratings. And typically what we see folks doing is deploying all of the version of reviews in a particular one single cluster, and then showing load balancing across those three. And what's going to happen with this multi-cluster setup is that we're going to introduce Envoy in each of our services here. And so as you can see, we're going to have an ingress gateway that is essentially going to be the insertion point for your service from the clients. And then it goes accordingly based on the rules to all the services. And so what happens from a deployment perspective here, I will have a cluster that is running on Google Cloud. And that cluster is running essentially my primary Istio control plane services, and also all of my components or services of my app except Reviews v3. So you can see here, Reviews v3 is actually deployed on my on-prem Cisco container platform cluster. And so since Reviews v3 and rest of my app are on two different environments, I am going to enable all of these things get registered into a Istio single control plane pilot and see how those things can then help me load balance across all the versions of reviews.
Sounds fun.
All right.
Let's do it.
So,
we got some friends in the house. Gary K, LT. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Gary.
This is the second one of my events that I'm booking, that I'm the keynote, the closing keynote is Istio. Lou Tucker was nice enough to do our keynote at our Cloud Native Open Infra Tech Day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Lou's, and this is all the work has been coming out of Cisco and from Lou Tucker's organization, who is our CTO for a lot of the cloud computing efforts. So we have got, like I said initially, a lot of people contributing into the open source community, and we are also integrating with our products to ensure that it works across clouds. So let's get back to the demo here. So
we like things to work across clouds.
Yes.
Not every cloud provider necessarily focused on that part of it, but that's where all this awesome technology comes in.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm here now on my Google Kubernetes engine environment, and what I'm going to just show here is just run a Kubernetes command to show what pods are running. And as you can see from the application architecture that I showed before, all of my pieces of my application, including ratings, reviews 1, v2, details, these are all running on my primary GKE cluster. What else we can do is actually go into the Istio system namespace here. And what this shows me is actually all of the Istio control plane services. So this is my primary control plane, and you can see everything from pilot to mixer to statsd, telemetry, all of these things are running here. What I want to do here is actually do an O-wide and show essentially the IP address here of one of the components, right? And so these essentially show me that these are running on two different environments. Similarly, if I'll go ahead and do get services here, and you can see ingress gateway, as I had showed, this was the entry point, and this is the primary IP address that I'm going to be using in order to get into the mesh. So this is the load balancer type that has been implemented.
Okay.
Now if I go into my on-prem cluster here, and I'm going to issue a similar command of get pods first, which is going to show me just the application services that are running in the default namespace. As you can see here, only reviews v3 is running here, right?
Okay.
So everything else was on my GKE cluster, and I switched context to my on-prem cluster, and when I ran the same kubectl get pods command, I just see reviews v3 running, right?
And how are you, so you were running these services, you were running these services on-prem?
Correct.
And now you're running them on the Cisco cloud?
Correct. So these are running on a Cisco container platform that is running on the on-prem side. So Cisco
got it. Okay.
Right. And so this is the Cisco container platform is essentially helping me deploy multiple Kubernetes clusters on-prem, and this is deploying that app on top of that Kubernetes cluster. So reviews v3 is that one app that is running in there.
Okay.
And so this is the deployment that we have seen. If we look into the Istio system namespace here, and what we should see here is just only two services. So what this shows is most of my services, or all of my services for Istio control plane like pilot, they were on GKE. But on my on-prem, it's only a couple of services that are essentially needed for this to work. Now you may ask, like, hey, how can you actually show me that these things have actually registered that you're talking about? So
well, isn't it like status running? That means they're running, right?
Yeah, they're running like as a service, but like how have they been registered with the Istio pilot service itself?
Oh, okay.
So that when I am actually getting into the service mesh, I'm actually taking the traffic and ensuring that when I'm requesting to reviews, I'm load balancing across all the three versions, out of which two are running on cloud and one is running on-prem. So like show me where Istio actually learned that information, right? So let's actually look at that. So if
Rohit, show me where Istio actually learned that information. I mean, how do I know that these things got registered?
Yeah, absolutely. So on my on-prem, what I'm going to do is essentially run a command to see the IP address of my reviews v3, right? So I just did an opod, and here you can see it has 10.50.121 address. So let's try and remember that. And what we'll do here is go back to my cloud environment, and we're going to issue a command to get into one of the pods here. And this is my ingress gateway pod. And I just issued a command curl to get all the information from pilot about the registration that I have within the mesh. And so we're going to just scroll up here and try to spot the review service. And here you can see this is my review service. And 10.50.121 was the IP address that we saw for reviews v3 running on-prem. So essentially 10.36.28 and 31, these are the IP addresses for reviews that are running on public cloud. and the 121 is the one that's running on-prem.
Okay.
So my Istio pilot has actually registered the reviews, 3 versions of reviews, and now when I'm actually entering into the service mesh, so if I go here to my browser and the standard refresh here, and I can see no stars, that is reviews V1, black stars, which is reviews V2, and red stars, which is reviews V3. So I'm actually load balancing as I am refreshing this page, that all of my traffic is getting load balanced across all of these things.
And I just love the irony of the Shakespeare play he picked. A comedy of errors. No commentary on the Istio 1.0 community at all.
This is our flagship demo.
Oh my gosh, okay, wow.
Yeah, so this was essentially, I mean, again, to summarize what I just showed here is that as you have your clusters, Kubernetes clusters across multiple environments, and as your developers deploy new versions of app in those environments, through a single Istio control plane, you can actually discover these new services as they come up, and then as an operator, apply the right policies to send traffic to these new endpoints, right? So that's the real power. And from an operations perspective, in this multi-cloud world where there are so many services across multiple environments, it really becomes powerful. Now I know the community is taking multiple approaches to solve this problem. This is one way of doing that Cisco has contributed back into the community. There are other efforts around like multi-cloud and zero VPN, in which you could have multiple Istio control planes running across multiple environments and they can exchange information. But we wanted to essentially get something out really quickly to get something going in the community. And so I think that way we've got something out there, and I think it's in beta with 1.0, and we are really hoping it moves to production as more users adopt this.
Do you have people beta testing it, like customers out there?
Yeah, so like for example, Cisco IT is an internal, they are actually trying to leverage this for some of their deployments. So we are in.
Good to start eating your own dog food.
Exactly, or drinking your own wine.
Or drinking your own champagne. Sorry, I'm a dog person and a champagne person. Either.
So yeah, no, absolutely. So we're actually making sure that our customers getting hands on this and evangelizing it with everybody so that they can see the power that this feature brings into the community.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so what are you looking forward to now that 1.0 is out? What are you guys looking forward to? How are you pushing the envelope going forward?
Great question. So I think one of the key pieces here was integration with Pilot, but now you also have other components like Mixer and Citadel. And so in a multi-cluster setup, how do you actually integrate like monitoring and observability and service graphs across a multi-cluster environment, right? So contributing those features, and then high availability and just upgrades and updates, which are really important from an operator's point of view as you deploy these things. So just for the Istio multi-cluster feature, how do you enable those things going forward as we take in the next release for Istio? So I think those are going to be the key pieces, and I think those will also help drive the adoption of the feature because it gives the operators the confidence that they can actually move this into a new version when it's there without service disruption.
And the piece that you're contributing, is it open source? Can other people contribute?
Absolutely, it's all open source, available in the upstream community with 1.0.
Okay, so where exactly, like on GitHub, where do they find it?
It is on GitHub. It's part of the Pilot GitHub repo. So as you go into the Istio GitHub page, into Pilot, you can see all of the code for that.
Okay, and is there any party you need? We've been talking about doc writers all day, like we need more docs.
Absolutely, so there are instructions on the Istio webpage for a multi-cluster setup, but for example, the app deployment that I showed just right now, I mean, if somebody wants to document that on the Istio webpage as to how that's done, that would be a great contribution. We love that. I mean, there are just amazing number of other ways you can contribute for this feature into the community.
That's good. I always ask because people always come up to me during one of our community events and ask how they can get involved and how they can contribute. So it's easier than you think.
Yes.
Alrighty, so are you gonna stay and have some cake with us?
Absolutely,
Maybe
and the champagne.
I can't have the cake either. Yeah. They didn't get a gluten-free cake, but they got me gluten-free champagne.
Oh,
so
that's perfect.
That will work. All right, Rohit, anything else you want to share or tell us before we close out our Istio 1.0 celebration day?
No, I think it's just, again, great participating here. Good to see so many talks from the community members, and I think Istio with the Sidecar Envoy community, I think it's great to see multiple open source communities working together. I think that's the right way of doing things, and as Kubernetes moves on to its next 1.11 and 1.12 releases, I think Istio is going to take Kubernetes to its next phase.
Oh my gosh! Did someone get that soundbite? That was awesome.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of things that'll take Kubernetes to the next phase, but Istio is certainly one of the exciting parts of the community. And Spencer and I were saying earlier, we've been in open source a long time, and every once in a while, we also feel like open source gives back in a really big way. And this feels like one of those times where we're all big fans of Istio, which is why we gave a whole day of our lives to bring you this exciting technology. Hey, Spencer, why don't you come back in and say goodbye to everybody. Is Spencer still in the building? Is Spencer drinking champagne?
Yeah, well,
Spencer's under a table in the other room.